Okay, hello. So let me show you a little demo of the latest implementations in overmind. Been working on the dev tool, and it's a lot of fun actually because it's so easy to just send new kinds of messages to the dev tools and just handle them, kind of like translating them into visualization. So for example, here we have like the demo application, and then we can change over to the debugger. And I made some design changes here. Like, I'm no designer, but at least I wanted to structure it a little bit differently. So up here you have the ports you are listening to. So you can have multiple apps on different ports at the same time. And then on the right side you have like the main menu. So there will be more menu items here than in the current Cerebral debugger, because we have so much more information, and we can, instead of just giving information, we can actually analyze the information and give valuable information. I'll get back to that. Anyways, so what we see here is that we have our state stored here, and we just have two different states, new to-do title and to-dos. And what we also have here is components. So what we see here now is how many components are currently connected, how many updates has been run, and how many values are being watched in the state tree. So first of all, we have the app. It doesn't have any values, and it doesn't look at any values, meaning it doesn't really need to be connected. This is probably from refactoring stuff. But anyways, add to do is the responsibility for the new to do title, and to do's has the responsibility of the to do's. And then the last thing here is the console. It just shows all the messages that has come in. So here we see we got the initial state, and we got some components, and we know what paths they care about. Okay, so let's change something here. So I can say hello. And as we can see, the state tree is updated. We can go to components. We see that we have had 5 updates. And those 5 updates were on the add to do component, because we changed the new to do title. But let's add a to do here, because then a little bit more stuff happens. So we got our to do here. And what's interesting about this inspector here is that every object and array is actually like the debugger, this dev tool is built with overmind, which is kind of cool because it's a very complex application, and already a few bugs has been fixed because we meet them when we build complex things. But the cool thing is that every object and array in this inspector actually connects to the state. So it's like a massive tree of connected state, and it's a really good performance test, just to see if everything works as it should. So we can go ahead and we can change out the completed here. We can click hello, and now we see completed is true, and I click it again and it's false, which is of course what you'd expect. But the cool thing here is that this is based on actual mutations. This is not like in Cerebral where you have like a custom API for state changes. This is based on mutations. So if you did a sort on an array, a reverse, or like all these different types of mutations, those would actually be reflected here in the dev tool. Okay, so let's move to components. So what we see here now is that we have another connected component, and we're watching a lot more state. So for example, the to-dos has had one update where it now doesn't only look at to-dos but also the first to-do, because it's iterating over the to-dos. And it's also looking at the ID, and that's because it uses the ID as the key of the to-do component. And then we have a new to-do here, which has updated 2 times because I clicked it. And it points to the completed and the title. And what's interesting here is that we now know that if I change the completed state of a to-do, only that component will be affected. So let's see here. When I click the completed state in the UI, this should turn to 3 and the rest should be the same. Let's see. And it is, isn't it? I think so. 6.1 was it? Yeah. And then we can add something more. And now we can see that we're starting to listen to more, and we got more instances of the to-do. Like this was super simple, but it's actually pretty cool how this works under the hood, and especially how the code is written. It's actually pretty cool. Like there's no big magic stuff here. Like for example, if we look at mutations, we have the mutation called perform mutations by message type, and it just goes through the messages from the client, and if it's a init, it just sets the state of that specific app, like it's the key is the port. And then we have on flush, we update the flushes. This information isn't actually used yet, but anyways, we add a component, we update the component, we remove a component. We just do mutations and everything works. So I said that there will be a lot more items here. So for example, we know about all the flushes here. So a flush is when overmind tells the components that we have had some mutations and it's time to update. And that's very useful to have like a log of, okay, when did overmind tell the application to update, how many mutations were batched together, and what components were actually affected by it. So that information is actually inside this dev tool right now. It's just not visualized yet. And then we can do things like performance stuff. And the next thing I'm going to work on is computed. So for example, in the demo, or maybe this is a better example, if we look at components here, we can see that I actually compute some state here. So take the updates count, for example. It just goes through the components and then aggregates the update count. Now this should rather be app state, and then and even here like app state current port. This is how you point to the current app right now. It should be app state current app, and then you could say total component updates count or something. So that's like the next thing that's coming in, and the way you would express that is something like, let's see here, client app. Like you would say current app, and then it's either, maybe it's just a function where you say derived, and then you get the state, and you would then do the state apps state current port. Anyway, so the point is that it doesn't matter exactly how this is expressed, but the point is that this information will also be passed to the dev tool, meaning that you can get an overview of like not only state changes and component updates, but derived updates. We can get information about like computed stuff inside components, where you kind of like pass props in to compute some state, reactions, and we can even combine all this information into one tool where you kind of just get a log of everything that's happening. And there's just so much information here that can be used to help you kind of like understand how your application is actually working. But anyways, first step now is to make the build actually work and publish the packages, so people can try to actually try this thing. But thanks for having a look, and I hope you liked it.